All right, so we're back. We have the Bills-Steelers recap from last night. Bills took home the 17-10 huge win, got them in the playoffs for the second time in the past 3 years, second time under McDermott. I know us Bills fans are feeling pretty good. What do you think of last night's win overall?
I thought the Bills played great on defense. Their defense looked elite. I think Pittsburgh's defense looked really good too. I'm ecstatic for the win, the playoffs, and everything, but the offense kind of concerned me a little bit. But a win's a win. Celebrate the playoffs. Huge implications, and just securing that upper wild card slot.
Yeah,
That's huge. Very good for our matchups in the
yeah, I agree.
season.
I mean, just overall, when you look at the team's performance, like you said, the defense stood out. I mean, they were rock solid all night. But even the offense, to go in a hostile environment on the road, Sunday Night Football, that drive that they ended up scoring the game-winning touchdown, Josh Allen's pass to John Brown set it up, and then the Croft touchdown. I saw on Twitter that the Steelers started playing their Renegade song. I mean, we know how big that was, and then right after they played that song, the Bills answered with that long drive and put the game on ice, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Renegade is like their signature
Yeah.
defensive thing. It's kind of crazy. My cousin was telling me about it. She went to the Monday night game earlier this year, and she was like, the whole place just starts going crazy, which
Yeah.
would be such a cool thing to experience. But definitely you practice how you play. That just shows you Sean McDermott's thinking outside the box, prepping the practices and everything.
Yeah, yeah, he was playing that song during practice. Everyone. I saw something with Matt Barkley, just like he's like, yeah, that's our song now, or something like that.
Yeah. He was
Um,
going crazy. He was twirling his
yeah,
his coat. It was getting people fired up on the
I
sideline.
love that.
Yeah.
They use that as like motivation instead
Yeah.
of intimidation. So let's talk about the defense for the Bills. They held Devlin Hodges to 202 yards and forced him to throw 4 picks, and also had 4 sacks on the day, with Jordan Phillips getting 2 of them. Who are some standouts you thought on defense?
Oh, for sure. Tre'Davious White. I mean, he came out on the big stage and just proved that what he could do and what he's always been doing. And he has 6 interceptions on the year, two during that game. Just in his on a week where Stephon Gilmore had 2 picks too. So it just kind of they clash, and it's a really
Yeah,
good comparison now, which is interesting. And then on the D line, definitely Jordan Phillips just coming out of left field for the Bills this year.
yeah,
Getting him from Miami last year during the after 12 games was huge, and he had 2 sacks yesterday, which was, I mean, he only had 5.5 sacks with the Dolphins for 4 seasons, and now he has 9.5 this year with the Bills. So
yeah,
this man's probably going to be getting his bag this offseason for sure.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah,
Hey,
he also had
yeah, Jordan Phillips definitely is earning his money this offseason, and another guy too in a contract year. I mean, all these defensive players they're going to have to pay
oh yeah,
very soon after
yeah,
this season. But Shaq Lawson too, I thought played awesome. He had a sack. He's just been great in the
and a
run
forced
game
fumble too.
and a forced fumble. Yeah, he's again. These are contract years for Phillips and Lawson, and I kind of like their edge this year. They came in with a chip on their shoulder, we got something to prove. We got to earn that bag. So, and
Yeah,
they both have. I would
yeah.
expect.
I
I'd
loved
like to see both of them.
yeah, I loved how Jordan Phillips, after, the biggest games this year, he's just kind of went on the media and just we're here. Don't underestimate us. And I
Yeah.
thought that was he's putting them on the map, and he's kind of giving them an ego and an attitude that's, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but
No, no, no.
he's kind of giving them a little bit of edginess, which is nice
Yeah,
to
yeah. They're
see from
play.
D linemen.
Yeah, for sure. They got a little swagger to them that they're bringing.
Yeah.
Remember Thanksgiving when they're going up, doing this, and
Yeah. Oh
oh,
yeah. I kind of
like
like
that.
that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Bills don't really have that. We don't really have that kind of swag, and
Yeah,
now we
exactly.
do. I mean, I think it comes with winning and stuff.
Yeah.
Going back to Tre'Davious White though, yeah, we Bills fans knew how good he was,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah.
I am so happy for him because he got to put himself. He put this game on a national stage. He put himself on the map with this game,
Oh
and
yeah, for sure.
he was balling out. We knew what he was. The Bills fans did, but just for everyone to see it, just really happy for him. Those 2 picks, he's definitely in the conversation for top cornerback in the league.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think you could put him right next to Gilmore, honestly.
It's
I mean,
crazy. I say this every week, but it's crazy that we could have had both of them.
oh, could you
I
imagine?
know that would have been crazy.
I know. But I mean, Levi Wallace stepped up too. I
Yeah,
thought he played decent. You know, he's going to get picked on. That interception at the end was good, and I mean they held Duck to 202 yards
yeah.
passing. So I mean that's a total team effort. Also, we can't go on without talking about Tremaine Edmonds.
Oh, that I was just about to bring him up, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just solidified that middle, him and Milano. But I thought Tremaine played a great game.
Oh yeah. They don't. They were talking about it on the announcers Collinsworth and Michael L. Michaels. They
Yeah,
were just talking about how he never really blitzes. You know, I never really noticed it, but yeah, I guess he doesn't really blitz much. But during that game, he was coming right up the middle, just giving pressure. That's like the worst thing as a quarterback is trying to go back and you have an A gap blitz. That's the
yeah,
one thing it flushes you out of the pocket and it doesn't allow you to get comfortable, which was good. Fostering Duck all day.
yeah. We got to give credit too to Leslie Frazier. He's the way that he's changed the defense. He's just been so much more aggressive.
Yeah,
I want to say since that Cleveland loss, they've just been dialing up the pressure. Those A gap blitzes, whether they're faking them and blitzing from the slot or whatever, they're just confusing all these quarterbacks. And I mean, it's totally paid off. It's night and day how the defenses looked. I mean, they were good all season, but as far as like creating pressure, which we weren't doing very well in the beginning of the season, night and day. And yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, just getting back to him, he's third on the team with 10 tackles for loss, and I can think of a lot of times where he's at or near the line of scrimmage, or forcing a run outside and
yeah.
filling. Like he's so fast, he's so
He's so
long and
big.
athletic,
Yeah,
so
he's
big.
crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, been really he's really stepped up this entire
Yeah,
season. Like
that
you
was
said.
actually really cool too. That he did it on that stage because of the whole. He has his two other brothers playing, which
Yeah.
is unreal. First
Yeah.
off, his dad
I
like
know.
I think his dad played in the NFL.
Yeah.
But
That was
like
a tight end, I believe.
yeah, but like kudos to those parents for raising three big
Yeah.
athletes. A couple guys from VMI actually like played with him and just said he's a really nice guy and
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say that too.
he's
Like,
huge.
yeah, yeah. But like they're great people too, and you can just tell like they were raised right. So let's flip it over to the defensive side for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked about it with Duncan going into this game, but T.J. Watt was
Yeah.
as advertised. He was a menace on the exterior for just creating pressure, strip sacks, just forcing the ball out. These punches. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I think he was like the difference maker on their defense last night,
Mm,
causing that forced fumble on Devin Singletary in the red zone. Huge play.
yeah,
Just pressuring Josh Allen all night, making tackles for losses. He was all over the field. Yeah, it's crazy because I mean he's so young, and he plays so like a veteran, like somebody who's played that for so long. He's way faster than his brother for sure.
yeah.
Um,
He's
just
got
two different types of players. And
yeah.
that punch that he has, I mean, that was kind of scary because he came down on Josh Allen on that
Yeah,
one scramble, and he was so close to hitting the ball. And if he did, it was coming out. But
that thing
also,
was gonna
if
fly
he
out.
hit Josh's hand, he could
Yeah,
have probably broke his hand. Like he came down with the wrath of God
I
on
know,
that ball.
I know, and I think God was on Josh
Yeah,
Allen's side because yeah, he missed. I don't even know how he missed that, to be honest.
I
But you're
know.
right. That thing, when I saw the replay, or when I even saw him wind up, I was like, oh no. And he
Yeah,
wound up and somehow missed. He like punched Josh in like the gut almost. It looked
yeah.
like.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, but he is a legit difference maker in games. Oh, and then the one play where the Bills ran a draw to Stephen Singletary and he dove and got him by just like great
Schuster.
effort. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the stuff that you look for and like just going that extra effort because
How
he
about
probably would have scored on that play.
I know, and it was wide open. Yeah, like Cody Ford like passed him up almost. It's like, all right, like maybe you do that on anybody else.
Yeah,
Give him a
maybe
chip or something.
maybe
Like,
stay on 1 second longer there,
yeah,
bud.
but also just to go back to T.J. Watt, I remember that play very early on in the game when he got cut by Cody Ford. He puts
Oh,
himself back up and tips it like basically on his knees or like coming up from his knees, and just a freak athlete, like crazy, defender and making plays left and right. And he
Yeah.
got a sack as well.
Speaking of pass deflections, though, I think the Steelers had like 3 from defensive linemen. I
Mm.
mean, that's a good amount by them. That's huge. And we'll talk about that more when we hit the offense on Josh's side. But just to be like a defenders, that's the one thing as a D tackle that is just pure football IQ. Hey, I'm not going to make the play. Let me just time up those things, make it hard for him, and it really kind of killed Josh's momentum a few times. So that was really a big thing that I think that kind of got a little bit overshadowed towards the end of the game was just those.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what you're taught as a defender. Like, if you're not going to make the play, if you're not affecting the QB, you can affect him in other ways, like getting your hands up, batting the ball down,
Yeah.
what have you. But while we're still on T.J. Watt, let's talk about that Defensive Player of the Year award, because we talked about it coming in that T.J. Watt is definitely up for nomination, and I think he, should be still. I think he played incredible. But let's put some respect on Tre'Davious White's name. I think he deserves to be in that talk as well after this performance, but you think otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking a little bit different than you on this one. It's hard for a defensive back, in my opinion, because their position is basically try not to get burned on a play or try not to give up over 100 yards receiving. So the productivity comes from, hey, I'm having a great year. I only let up this amount of 100-yard games or had this many interceptions, but how many touchdowns you have scored on you. So it's kind of hard because in your
It's harder.
position,
It's harder to measure it, I think,
yeah,
is like what you're trying to say. Because I mean, with D line, you got sacks, you got pressures, whatever, and it's
you
like
can directly influence a game because you're at the source. But
right,
when you're a defensive back, you're subjective to all those those rules with like holding and pass interference. It's just not meant for you to be great. And
right,
that's kind of, I mean, it makes it more impressive, but it also is like, how much are you directly affecting the game?
right,
Like if you're locked down and they're not throwing towards you, yeah, you're affecting the game, but then you're not really showcasing like your like defendability. You're kind of
right,
it's kind of like your like ego at that point. Like a quarterback doesn't want to throw like to Revis Island. Nobody
right.
wanted to throw at him, but his stats probably weren't that good because nobody threw at him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like as a DB, I was always taught like if they're not throwing your way, you're doing your job because you're locking them down, and that statistically takes away from either tackles or pass breakups or picks or whatever. So I guess my counter to that is that what makes it so impressive that Tre'Davious White, what he's doing on the field is that he's tied for the league lead in interceptions with Gilmore at 6. And he's also one pass defense away from the league lead. He has 17 pass deflections. Gilmore has 18. So I guess that maybe just sounds like Gilmore should get it more than Trey, but he should
Whoa,
be in the discussion.
yeah,
And
he
that,
should. I guess you're right.
we can argue about that later. But I mean, I get what you're saying though.
That's a
I totally
solid point. Oh yeah,
I
I mean, you bring up good points with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a DB, so I think more respect should go to those guys. But you're totally
Yeah.
right. It's harder to measure. I don't even know. I would love to know the percentage of like D linemen to defensive backs that get that award,
I mean,
because it's just so
yeah.
much easier to measure it in my mind.
Defensive back is truly the hardest position on the field because everything's stacked against you,
Mm.
and I mean you're running the most out of everybody. So it's definitely one of those positions where you go into it knowing, hey, I might not get a lot of glory because I'm going to get up against these great receivers, and now it's such a big passing games like with all these quarterbacks. But yeah, you make a good point with that. And I think it would be interesting this weekend with Stephon Gilmore going up against Trey White, or not like directly, but
Yeah,
um,
to see who's the better corner though.
the two matchups kind of going
Who
because
can affect the game more? I think.
exactly because I think when you compare the receivers for the Patriots and the receivers for the Bills, I mean none of them really are stand out,
Yeah.
and it's kind of just like an even battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll touch on that more in our preview for the Bills Patriots game, but I agree. I'm actually really looking forward to see who stands out of those two guys. Let's talk about the offense for the Bills. Josh Allen finished with 139 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and a rushing touchdown. Let's start with Josh. I mean, I wouldn't say it was his best game throwing the ball, but he did what he had to do, and he pulled out the win, which to me is all that really matters.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In my opinion, I thought Josh wasn't actually really a factor in the game. He was not a factor in the majority of the game. Obviously, at the end when he threw the touchdown pass to Croft, I think me and you were talking before the show. Like I was just saying, that's like, think about being giving the keys to the franchise. And this is, you didn't make the playoffs last year. You know, Tyrod made the playoffs the year before. So obviously, some guys on the team had some. You know, he comes in this year and dominates, and he throws that pass to secure a playoff spot. I think
Yeah,
that's a pretty big moment in your career as a
yeah,
quarterback, for
yeah.
sure. So I thought that was cool, but then again, I don't think he was really a factor in the game. He threw a couple really good passes, like the one to I have here, the one to John Brown,
Mhm.
where it was about 9 minutes left in the third quarter, and it was like a corner slash out route. Just like there's little triangle guys, and he threw a bullet right in there.
Oh yeah,
Um, he threw that good ball to John Brown on the sideline.
yeah, yeah. A
But
deep ball.
then, yeah, but then he throws, overthrows Cole Beasley a little bit on that in route. That third and long, he threw it right into the ground. Didn't even get like to the first down mark.
Yeah, I
Just kind
saw
of not really like accurate. We talk about accuracy with him, but we always talk about how people think his accuracy is with completion percentage. But that game, he actually was not accurate in my opinion. He overthrew a couple guys on out routes.
that. Yeah, I think on that interception, to me Cole Beasley has to come down with that catch.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It was a high ball, but that still hit him square in the hands. And
yeah,
like, I mean, I wouldn't put that interception on Josh whatsoever. Maybe not whatsoever, but like it could have been a better ball.
yeah,
But if you can get two hands on the football, you need to catch the ball, and you
yeah.
can't tip. You can't tip it up. I don't
That
know.
was my next point. It was just that when Collinsworth kind of hit on it before the game, just how short the receivers were, I was like, holy crap. I actually really didn't. I thought John Brown was 6 foot. I didn't realize he's 5'8". But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
And you
I
know what's
saw.
funny? That graphic that they put up, they listed John Brown at 5'11". Maybe that's what he's on the team site. But I saw like afterwards, someone interviewed him, and he claimed himself to be like 5'9". And so he was even shorter than that graphic. Like, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, so what I basically was kind of gonna, from the game was Beasley is too short for like routes like that in cut he ran that was overthrown. John Brown had that jump ball in the end zone before the Tyler Croft play, if you remember, where he kind of had to end up playing defense on it because it
Oh
was
yeah,
fourth.
yeah,
But if you have a big receiver, you just loft that ball up there and see if he makes a play. And that in cut, big receiver is gonna catch that and soak the hit.
Pre-game, I was still upset that they didn't have Duke Williams active because I don't really know why you don't play him, but and to this is sort of going off the tangent, but Robert Foster was active, but he didn't get hardly any offensive snaps,
Yeah.
and he's their other tallest receiver. So I just think you put Josh Allen in a bad situation when you know he's inaccurate, and you're giving him 3 5'8" or shorter receivers. Like, and then you got tight ends, but he doesn't really go to tight ends. So it's like
Yeah.
you're not giving him the weapons that he needs to be
Yeah.
successful and to help him progress in his career.
Yeah.
And I think they will, but I really, really hope they address that as the number one priority in the offseason.
Yeah.
But luckily for us, we have the playoffs and
Yeah.
a lot of football between
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. But going back to hit on something I mentioned during the defense about Josh, his pass is getting batted down. As a quarterback who's he's 6'5", I think even 6'6", that's unacceptable. I mean, that is completely unacceptable. He should be able to get that ball off. His release point was so low yesterday. I didn't understand it. He just seemed like he was kind of like that's the thing that Duncan was kind of hitting on. Big arm, you rely on that arm. He was
Right.
relying on his arm. He wasn't getting his body. If he was getting his body, he would have came over the top more. Never
Yeah.
get blocked that way. His
Yeah.
release point should be all the way up, not right here next to his head. That's just one thing that's unacceptable for quarterback play.
Yeah, it was a little concerning to see. I think it was like 3 or 4 balls batted down, and crucial points too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst thing, but it's something to keep in mind moving forward.
It's something that kills drives.
Yeah,
Because you
it's
never know,
deflating
because
for
the guy
sure.
could have been wide open, and
Yeah.
you never got it there.
Luckily, to give Josh some credit, before the touchdown pass was when he had a ball swatted down, and then he answered with that strike to Tyler Croft. So good on him. Let's touch on John Brown, who had a pretty big day. He had 7 catches, 99 yards. But I think the most impressive thing to me was he passed 1,000 yards on the season. He's at 1,007 yards so far. And that is the most since Sammy Watkins, and our first 1,000-yard receiver since Sammy Watkins in 2015. So that was nice to see, and I'm glad he got that number.
Yeah.
His second time in his career going over 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
And I thought he played really well.
That's big time. He was getting open a lot during the night. That big 4th down play, caught that one.
Yep.
Caught that deep ball, which was awesome. He's just an overall solid guy. He kind of reminds me of, and it's not gonna seem like a comparison, but he reminds me of like a Jarvis Landry, in the fact that he's a good in the slot, can play outside, but he'll never really be a true number 1 receiver, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think of him. I think he's reliable, and I mean, obviously we talked about getting another receiver earlier, but yeah, just keeping him involved in the offense and just evolving it to where we have him and another receiver that's going deep. It'll just open him up more with different levels, especially if you get a guy who can run deep. So I know we've talked about that earlier in the a couple episodes ago, but yeah, no, he came out. Yeah, so I mean, John Brown, hell of a game. I hope he keeps it up for next week. And okay, moving forward, I want to talk about a guy who had a great game, but his mistakes almost cost us. And I know you have some thoughts about Devin Singletary's game. So, what do you got to say about his performance?
Yeah. Starting off, I want to say he is dynamic. He is so electric when he gets the football. I love watching him play because he is making multiple people miss. His vision is incredible. He's the only, to me, he's the biggest big play guy we have. And he's not going to burn you for like a 60-yard touchdown, but he's ripping off these 10 to 15-yard runs that are just, I mean, they're carrying the offense. They're like propelling the offense. And his stats aren't like crazy. 21 carries for 87 yards, but that defense was dang good. And I am just playing back all these jukes he had, where he just either back juked, side juked, and people just went flying. But that brings me to the concern that I think all Bills fans have, is his ability to hold on to the football. And we saw it earlier in the game, or earlier in the season. He had a 2 fumble day, which were his only 2 of the whole season. But this was another one where he had that costly fumble when the Bills were driving, I believe like in the 30-yard line or so, about to score. That one totally crushed momentum. That one was
play of the game.
Really concerning. I believe that's the one where T.J. Watt just came and just punched it right out. Credit to T.J. Watt. I don't think Singletary's going to have to worry about too many T.J. Watts punching the ball out. But then he fumbled another one later in the game that luckily John Brown, speaking of him, recovered and really saved us. But a little scary.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think it's a concern moving forward, or was it just like a fluky sort of one-off game?
The only 2 fumbles he had previously were earlier in the season, so I wouldn't put much stock into it. Obviously, he's going to probably be working some drills, in practice this week. Probably make him hold the football all the time.
Yeah.
But I definitely think he'll be fine. Going back to you though, I mean, you obviously played running back when you were on offense. What was your mentality when you had a fumble? As a running back, when you fumble, like, what are the confidence issues that you have?
Yeah, I think that definitely is confidence, an issue. Just like when you throw an interception, like fumbling the ball is the equivalent to, any running back, receiver, whatever. But running backs, you're carrying the ball. I mean, he carried it 21 times. You're going to get it again. Like, you just got to make sure you hold on to the thing tight. Just go back to, your fundamentals and, 6 points on the football and just keeping it close to your body, bracing for big hits. Singletary, to his credit, I suppose, those weren't hits that he saw coming. They were either from behind or from the side. But still, like, you can't be carrying that thing out. You got to have it tucked in tight. When you see someone coming, cover it with two hands, brace yourself. And to answer, I guess, your original point with the confidence thing, it can take a toll. I would imagine Singletary is not feeling too great after fumbling twice. You move on, you go back to your fundamentals. And
yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. I mean, I can definitely see how, your confidence, gets a little shook. I have like a good question for you. Do you think a fumble is more detrimental to a team than an interception? And here's my logic behind it. When you're throwing the ball, it's much more of a risky play than running the ball, obviously. You run the ball because there's less risk of a turnover. And when there is a turnover on a low-risk play, don't you think that kind of shakes the confidence of the team losing the ball or fumbling the ball more than an interception because you're already accepting that risk? I mean,
right.
I just want to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's circumstantial based on when the game is. Like, if I look at yesterday, that Josh Allen interception versus Devin Singletary's fumble, I would 100% say that Singletary fumble was worse, just because the Bills were driving, they were in close to the red zone, knocking on the door. But yeah, I mean, a fumble. I get what you're saying. Like a fumble, someone's running with the ball every single play, so I think fumbles are probably more likely to happen maybe than interceptions. I don't know the exact stat on that. But to that same point, it's like it's happening every single play. You got to be able to hold on to the football. And, on a routine run and someone comes and, punches it out, it could be pretty demoralizing for a team. And, maybe more so than an interception off a tip ball or something like that where it's not really your fault. It's like, if you fumble, it is your fault. Like there's no way around it.
Yeah.
It is Devin Singletary's fault. It wasn't, Cole Beasley's fault. Josh Allen's fault, whatever. I think it's more on one player, a fumble, than say an interception where, Josh Allen has somebody in his face, he's throwing the ball.
There's more variables, is what you're
Right,
trying to say.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Talking about running backs again for the Bills. I don't know what you think, but I am kind of sick and tired of Frank Gore playing. I think he is too old. The problem with him is he can't run up the middle anymore, and he's not fast enough to go outside. So it makes no sense why we got rid of Shady McCoy, who could at least he could be shifty and go outside. But Frank Gore can't even run up the middle. He doesn't look explosive anymore. He's just too old, and it's actually hindering Singletary's growth, in my opinion. I think his leadership is impeccable. He's well respected, and he's setting Singletary up with legends giving him advice and everything after the games, like we see on social media. But I am 100% down with releasing him after this year and moving on. Like I don't understand why he's in the game. I understand why he's in the game at the end, especially after Singletary fumbled, but I don't understand why he's in the game at any other point.
Yeah. To keep it short, I completely agree with you. I cannot stand watching Frank Gore. And did you see that attempted pass play that they did with Frank Gore? Did you see that one?
Oh, what?
Do you remember that one zone play that was off to the right? Where they basically ran Frank Gore twice in a row. But the second time, what I originally thought was a stretch zone to the right, Frank Gore takes his hand off the football, cocks it back, and was about to throw it to I think Knox, who was creeping, but he faked it blocking and then sort of veered off. He was about to throw that thing. I think Dable had another trick play, but the Steelers just completely blew it up, and it didn't look like a trick play. It looked like a
I was about to say
terrible run.
I would never have got that until you said it.
I saw it on Twitter, and I remember seeing the replay.
Oh, okay. Hold up. I'm sorry. I don't want to.
No,
this is history live, guys. Drew Brees just threw the record-breaking touchdown.
Nice.
That's awesome. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but that's awesome right there. Pretty cool stuff.
And Frank Gore, I do think he's such an invaluable locker room guy and experienced guy. I do not want to see him touch the football on Sundays and Saturdays. He is like you said, he has no explosion. Just there's just nothing to it. It's just like running a fullback dive like
He's
right up the middle.
there's no advantage to having out there. There's not like a team's coming out there saying, "Oh shoot, they have Frank Gore out there." Like how am I gonna stop
And
him?
I love him. Don't get me wrong. And I
Yeah,
saw him
he's a
last
legend.
night. I saw him last night get out of his truck when all of Bills Mafia greeted them at the airport. I saw him get out of his truck and he's like high fiving everybody, like someone else was driving, and he's a love and life, and I love that. I love having him on the team. I hate seeing him on the field touching the football. He had 10
Yeah,
carries for 15 yards. That is a 1.5 average.
yeah,
That
it's
is,
terrible.
and he got 9 yards on one of those carries. That means he had 9 carries for 6 yards. That is atrocious.
That's terrible.
Dable, don't give him the football, especially to throw it, because that was
That was
atrocious.
stupid. That would have been bad.
Okay, my last thing I want to talk about with the Bills. This is to bring it back down to earth a little bit. This is something that slightly concerns me going into the playoffs, and I'm looking at these stats, and it sort of proves my hypothesis. So from last night, John Brown had 7 catches, 10 targets. Our second leading receiver was Devin Singletary, who had 2 receptions for 2 yards and 3 targets. And on the season, John Brown leads the team with 71 catches. Cole Beasley has second. He has 60 catches. And then we drop all the way down to 28 catches for Devin Singletary. He's our third leading receiver. Dawson Knox has 27. So my point being is that come playoff time, we're going to need other receivers to step up. John Brown isn't going to be able, he's not going to be able, and he's been quiet these past couple games, and Cole Beasley stepped up. But my concern for the Bills moving forward from, even this week and into the postseason is we have Cole Beasley and John Brown, who are more than double targets and receptions above our third highest guy. Like we don't have any other options for Josh. And I don't know if that's Josh not using his tight ends or whatever, but we don't have enough weapons where I think, to me, where we can make a really strong playoff push because we're just not getting other people involved. I don't want to know if that concerns you at all.
I think that it does definitely concerns me, especially with teams that coordinators come up with some crazy schemes in the playoffs.
So to put that in perspective, let's take a team like the Steelers, who we just beat. They have 6 players with over 30 catches. The Bills have 2. The Steelers, their top receiver only has 47 catches, but they just have so many other receivers. And Juju's been out a couple games. He's only played 10 games this season. They get the ball around, and I think that makes it harder on defenses for to really match up and like see who you got. And the Bills only have 2 players with more than 30 catches on the season. That I don't know. I mean, it concerns me a little bit moving forward. So I want to hear what your thoughts are. If you think that's a problem, or if the Bills will be just fine.
Yeah, I mean the counter that with the Steelers is they've had 2 different quarterbacks or 3 with Roethlisberger, but 3 different quarterbacks, and that's 3 different preferences of receivers. So that kind of like, they spread the ball all differently. But your point does concern me with the Bills because once you get in that playoff push, coordinators come up with really in-depth schemes. They've seen your film from 17 or 16 games all year, and they're going to see that. They're definitely going to scheme Josh Allen up really extensively and just use those stats to prep because they know he's very limited on his options. And what I think is the biggest key during this playoffs is get Singletary involved, not on swing routes like in the backfield, but being like one-on-one against the middle linebackers, running arrow routes, running switch routes, everything in the middle of the field, and get him involved in more of an open space instead of being towards the sideline. I think that is the key. And definitely think the Bills need to scheme in Dawson Knox or Croft, but especially Knox with more seam routes, something over the middle. Knox needs to be like a Gronkowski, in my opinion. We need
Yeah.
like a Gronk on our team because you look at the Patriots now without Gronk, it's completely a different offense. And
Yeah.
to counter the thing about the Bills, the New England Patriots are also struggling too, and they're not utilizing a tight end. I mean, I think
Yeah.
Edelman has 92 catches this year, and James White has, let me see, 60. And then after that, I don't think
He's
anyone else
65.
has, 65.
And their leading tight end is Ben Watson, who has 13 catches.
Yeah.
So
So it just goes to show you that like involving a tight end is something that's kind of important for, and I think they have similar offenses and similar personnel.
yeah.
So it just shows you how influential, a tight end can be over the middle and establish a presence there.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to utilize him, like I said earlier, utilize Singletary, get him involved in the middle with space against the middle linebacker or so.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think just to like echo that point, just there has to be a third guy that steps up, either come this week against the Patriots or come playoffs. I don't think that we can win against these really good teams with just John Brown and Cole Beasley getting like 50% of the targets and receptions. So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind moving forward.
Lastly, we got to hit on the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Like you said earlier, Devin Hodges, 23 for 38, 202 yards, 1 TD, 4 interceptions. James Conner had 8 rushes, 42 yards, 1 receiving touchdown, and then 1 fumble lost on the muffed exchange on the Wildcat. And we have James Washington, 5 receptions for 83 yards. So those are some of the key highlights from the Steelers offense. What are your thoughts on how they approach this game?
Yeah, I didn't love their game plan going in this game, and I think what they did so well and why Devlin Hodges was undefeated going into this game was they had balance on offense, and at least a little bit more than they had in this game. And you look at James Conner's stats; he had 8 carries for 42 yards. That's 5.3 yards a carry. I think he was criminally underutilized, and I don't think the Bills really, at least in a couple runs, they didn't really have the personnel to match up with him. But what I just feel like he would rip a good run and then they would immediately take him out and sub in these other guys who didn't do anything. Here's the problem. I like how a lot of these teams have multiple backs that they can go to, but as a running back, I know that getting taken out so often and like substituting, spelling all these different running backs takes the running back out of its rhythm. And
Yeah.
like it's hard to get back into it after you're sitting multiple minutes on the sideline, multiple plays on the sideline. So for James Conner to only get 8 carries and only 12 touches altogether, I think is just. I mean, he was the best playmaker going in this game. To only get him the ball 12 times, I think was a miss from the Steelers, and that put a lot more pressure on Duck to do something. And he ended up throwing the ball 38 times. And
Yeah.
I think they just put the whole game on his shoulders, which I don't think is what they should have done going into this game. And I think
this is a must-win game. Tomlin has to play his best players. This is implications in the playoffs. You got to play guys, and I feel like they kind of took him out because of the previous injury he had just been coming back from, and like you were saying, that kills Devlin Hodges because now he's got to take it on his shoulders to make plays, and he's got to create plays. If you looked at it, Devlin they did not establish Devlin with a mid-range pass game. How many? I think he had 1 comeback route that he threw for like 20 yards. And all the rest of them were deep passes or they were underneath. And the Bills were just playing zone and just coming up and making form tackles and everything.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand. They didn't establish the run, like set up like play action or anything. That's the best thing you can do for a young quarterback who's coming in and definitely playing against such a great defense, aggressive defense. Those intermediate plays is what's going to kill that defense because obviously the Bills defense was ready for them to take shots. Why would they blitz all game? But the intermediate passes is what the Bills defense was not prepared for.
Yeah.
And they didn't take advantage of it, and it comes back to James Conner just not getting the touches that he should have gotten.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you look at the Bills running versus the Steelers running. The Bills ran for 130 yards. Steelers ran for 51. And they actually had the same exact rushing average, but it's just the Bills. I mean, they ran the ball. The Bills ran the ball 38 times, and the Steelers passed the ball 38 times. That's all you need to know about the
Yeah,
game. It's like, and the game was so tight the whole time that, it's not like they really needed to get away from the run,
yeah,
the Steelers.
and
And
yeah, and teams are coming into playing Buffalo and having such success running.
right,
It's like that's kind of like if you're gonna go for an Achilles heel, that's kind of the Buffalo's Achilles heel
right.
is a solid running game.
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting play calls and offensive game plan for the
Yeah,
Steelers, I thought. But hey,
yeah,
worked out for us.
yeah. And just like a side note, let's talk about that shaked punt that only went like 22 yards. That
Yeah,
was huge for the Bills. Like
yeah,
that might have
yeah.
been one of the biggest plays of the game,
I know, and that was
in the
pretty
first
early
half
on.
at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to like we talked about in our Ravens recap from last week, just the battle of field position. And it's like if you set these teams up with short fields, they're going to capitalize. They're going to get points. That's what a
Yeah,
playoff team does. To the Bills' credit, they capitalized on it. I believe they got some points out of it.
yeah,
And like special teams is 1/3 of the game of football. And if you're not clicking on all cylinders, you're going to lose the game.
yeah.
And that's what happened.
Keeping with special teams, this is my last thought. There was too many penalties on blocking the backs. That
Mm,
was field position killers for the Bills,
yeah.
and especially Lorenzo Alexander had one. He knows better. Like
Yeah.
he's a veteran. You gotta play better and smarter and more clean than the other team if you're gonna, consistently come out and win games. So that's my last thought about that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so that's going to do it for this Bills Steelers recap. It was a great win by the Bills, going to the playoffs, a lot to be excited about.
Yeah,
Be
oh
sure
yeah.
to check out our Patriots preview that we'll be doing later this week. I don't know, anything for the people?
Such a great week when the Bills clinched a playoff spot. No pressure anymore. It's just a great feeling, and I'm happy for the people of Buffalo who,
Yeah.
have been undoubtedly some of the best fans, especially supporting that team through all the, hardships of the early 2000s and 2010s. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that city of Buffalo deserves this, and hopefully we get a good playoff run going.
Yeah, totally. Everyone, Bills Mafia, enjoy this win. Enjoy the playoffs. We earned it. Us fans certainly earned it as well. So, yeah, nothing else from us. Go Bills, and we'll see you next time.